You probably already know by now that Baldur's Gate 3 is a massive game with tons of complex systems, but just how detailed does this game get? There's a lot of things you probably missed, and a couple of handy tricks you could be using. So let's list off a bunch of stuff you probably didn't know. In Baldur's Gate 3, there's a mechanic called dip, which lets you dip your weapon onto certain elements to gain that property, such as into water puddles, poison, or fire. But with fire specifically, it can be dipped at almost any time, including off of teammates or off the enemy themselves. Or you can even dip fire off yourself.
I need a little extra edge.
Not quite sure how that works. You can also drop a candle down, light it up, then dip your weapon in the fire. Or equip a torch to light it, then drop it out of your hand to dip as a fire source. So just keep in mind there's always a way to dip fire. If a party member has fallen asleep, you can help them up, or a friendly shove can wake them up too. Featherfall makes party members immune to fall damage, which is not only handy for jumping from high heights and to new places, but this also prevents fall damage from getting knocked off from enemies as well. Did you know that goblins and trolls are absolutely terrified of spiders? You could probably use it to your advantage to distract them. Familiars are handy friends you can call to your aid, and have a wide range of uses, but different familiars have different properties, such as some having much higher fall damage thresholds than others, or some having massive jumping capabilities. Remember, if you use familiars, try to always summon one before each long rest. They persist through rests, so when you wake up, you won't have to waste skill points again on getting them back. You already have them with you, and you can save the skill points for a more important spell. An extremely useful tip is to pick up every pouch and backpack you see lying around. They're nice little folders, obviously good for compartmentalizing things and keeping your inventory tidy. They can also help you hand over dedicated things to certain party members, and sift through multiple combat items during battle by putting pouches directly into your hotbar. A lot less scrolling this way. What's even more powerful about backpacks though is that when it's thrown far enough, the fall damage breaks the backpack and all the contents spill out. Seems like a pretty bad deal, until you absolutely pack your little satchel charge full of explosives and flammables to turn your backpack into a mini nuke that completely obliterates enemies. With enough explosives stuffed inside, the computer can't even keep up. Now that's a lot of damage. A funky way to light your path without risking yourself is to use the light ability on an inanimate object, such as a single gold coin, then toss it where you want to go to light your path. Did you also know that familiars can sometimes jump directly through iron bars? You can also do this yourself if you wild shaped into a small enough animal. If you ever run across a treasure chest that seems difficult to open, or you don't have the time to lockpick, you can always just pick it up, then send it directly to your camp to lockpick it at your own pace later. Did you also know that you never need to waste your inventory space for camp supplies? Even though the warning pops up that you don't have enough supplies for a long rest, the supplies you have sent to camp can be used directly from the traveler's chest for your long rest. This saves a bunch of weight in your backpack for more important things during your adventures. Party inventory is a great way to pass around different items, but it can be used in really interesting ways, such as sending items to each other even while halfway across the map, useful for passing heavy barrels off, or even more handy, handing off equipment that allows different movement. So if you're in a tough terrain situation, you can keep handing off the equipment between each other to get over rough terrain. One tip while Baldur's Gate 3 is only on PC is to try out both control schemes available to you. Mouse and keyboard and controller are both great options, and can be used interchangeably on the fly. This can create some much more comfortable gameplay, such as using the controller while exploring, then switching to mouse and keyboard during combat. Of course, play how you want to play it, but definitely try both fully before making your decision. When you're near traps, one tip is to stop and unlink your party members ASAP. Often while trying to disable traps, moving around to disarm the trap will have following party members run around you and probably trigger a nearby trap, ruining your whole plan. Tell your party to sit still while you're working with the situation. Engaging in turn-based mode by pressing Shift and Spacebar is immensely helpful in not only giving you a second to process your next move, but also freezes buff timers and enemies in place while giving you movement. This is best used in ambushes to set up and lure enemies, then spring the trap while they're frozen to maximize your damage. Remember that not only water is freezable, but blood is too, which means that blood can also put out small patches of fire. It doesn't cover a very wide area, but the fact that this works is pretty interesting. Maybe it's obvious, but it's good to know that you can shift-click multiple items in a row, or control-click singular items to pinpoint your inventory selections. When on a slippery surface, always try to jump out of it or over it to prevent falling down. If you plan ahead, you can drop down a couple items before the battle, then plant a mage hand next to them to support your party members from a distance by chucking offensive or defensive items. Did you know that you can teleport via Minimap? Remember that you can not only group and ungroup all your party members, but you can create separate linked squads, such as a squad of 2 and 2 together, 3 together, just 2 separately, etc. Just ungroup your party members, then drag each one by your preferred teammate. If you're having trouble targeting enemies that are way high up, you can hit the O key for a tactical top-down view to get direct line of sight on higher levels. Besides equipment and potions, you can walk over web surfaces by wild shaping into a spider, having your spider familiar walk over it, or by jumping over it. When coming across vent traps on the ground, you can simply throw any item on top of the vent to block the gas coming out. Then you can disarm it or leave it as it is. Silence is not only great for nullifying magic attacking enemies, but also silences the environment, such as an explosion which would normally wake up nearby enemies. It's instead deafened by the spell to let you sneak by quietly. Remember that potions have a small area of effect, and you can get more bang for your buck before or during a fight if you clump your teammates together, then throw or attack a potion on the floor altogether. Then you can share the effect across multiple teammates, not just selfishly for one. Crates can be used for some great ladders for party members to stand on. Remember, if you stack 3 on top of each other, it's enough height to get the high ground advantage buff. Within the first 10 minutes of the game, you can nab the secret powerful sword from Commander Zulk to give you a huge step up in the early game, by commanding him to drop it or by killing him. You could check out our 10 things to do first video to find out how. Holding the Alt key down while exploring gives you a nice view of important items to pick up. Bear in mind this doesn't show absolutely everything that's important, and sometimes some random corpses or barrels that don't show up might have a nice surprise you might have missed. Don't overlook things. If you're ever up on nice high ground but enemies can still easily climb ladders to get up to you, just remember you can take out the ladders to give them no easy way up. One weird interaction is if you're up on high ground, you of course have advantage against most enemies on low ground. But if you fall prone while on high ground, you're actually untargetable by attacks that need line of sight from low ground. While I don't suggest going prone on purpose, this can be used to force enemies to approach you instead of shooting at you from a distance. And there you go, 33 things that might help you through your journey in Baldur's Gate 3. If you have any other tips, let us know in the comments below. And of course, for all things Baldur's Gate, keep it right here on GameSpot.